Hi, I'm Milton Kane, the Christian Democratic Party candidate for the federal seat of Newcastle. I have once before approached the subject of safe housing and the government's responsibility in regard to that matter. I'm wondering if you out there have found that you've got some mind subsidence. I'm wondering if you have found that the time it takes you to get the reports in and to fill out the application form. I'm wondering if you have actually had difficulty in filling them out. In the 1920s, a mine closed in Gilliston Heights, just near Maitland. Many years later, the Neal family purchased a property there with a house. And what has happened is, over the recent years, there has been some mine subsidence, which has pretty much basically destroyed the house. Obviously, there's some holes in the yard as well. It's going to cost a lot of money to stabilise the ground that the house was built upon. To be able to repair, possibly you have to demolish and replace the home. The Neal family went through the process they would normally go through, is to get somebody in to examine whether or not there was mine subsidence or what other cause of any damage occurred. They've probably gone down the track like most people. They've probably thought, well, I'll go to my insurance company, and that's taken time, it's rejected it. I don't know what they've done. But the Mine Subsidence Board does not dispute the fact that mine subsidence has caused the damage. What they do dispute is the time frame from the knowledge to the actual doing something about it. We don't know what processes they had. We don't know their circumstances. But it seems to me that if the Mine Subsidence Board recognise that mine subsidence has occurred, and it has, they ought to be responsible for the payment. That's the way I see it. As I relayed once before, the government has a responsibility to supply us with safe housing, because after all, you and I will go out and purchase a property to build on, purchase a property that has already been built on, because it has been subdivided, because it has been approved for residential housing, because perhaps a house has been built on it. We will deem that to be safe. And I believe that we're entitled to make that judgment. And yet the government may know something entirely different, after all. They have all the records there are in regard to mines. They have all the records in regard to the sorts of rainfall and the potential flood dangers. They have all the information about any dust that escapes from any transport facility. They have any amount of information to clearly establish whether or not an area is potentially appropriate for housing or not. But very often, in the mad dash to sell public assets, to raise money, to deal with government shortfalls, approvals will be given to build in places where it should never be built on in the first place. Approvals will be given to be built next to things that should never be built next to. Approvals will be given to build even on land that is severely and potentially catastrophic. Land movements can occur because of the mines underneath. This is mine subsidence. But if we can get some money, the government's thoughts and process seems to be, we'll permit it to be done, we'll sell it if we own it, but we'll allow the development to go ahead. And we'll collect the money from the taxes and all other sources, and if it's land that the government owns, we'll collect the money from the sale of the land. That's not the way it should be. Governments have a responsibility to their citizens. And I say to you, a part of that responsibility is to supply safe housing. So if there is a known impediment to building a house and for it to remain safe, then the government has a responsibility for releasing that property for housing. The government has a responsibility to deal with it and to sort out the problem. If insurance companies refuse to pay, it seems to me that the government should accept the responsibility of that. We as a community have a government in place so they can protect us in all ways, so they can supply services to us in all ways. And it's about time they started to deliver in an impartial way, in an appropriate way, because at the end of the day, that's what governments are supposed to do. Thank you.